Welcome to Guest House Cinema Podcast, and we're here talking about all things meaningful with shorts
Mhm.
in the state of Kentucky. Yeah, we'd love for you to subscribe to the channel. We're looking to get up to 1,000 subscribers. It's really going to help out our ability in order to, provide more shorts and send them your way.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, hit that subscribe button and share this video if you liked it.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
y'all so much.
We're in Louisville, Kentucky,
Yep.
and we've had the opportunity to work with a lot of really talented, skilled people in the
Mhm.
film industry.
I think we're finally at the point where Kentucky comes up in like the top 3
Mm,
places for at least some producers now, which has been cool in the last 3 to 5 years, really.
right.
Um, but yeah, it is more of an unknown, especially Louisville. Like, who wants to make a movie in Louisville when you can go to like Atlanta, New York,
Yeah,
LA? Um, but yeah, so it's been an interesting 2.5, 3 years. You kinda just build relationships through gigs, or through jobs, through productions, and, I've always been in love with the narrative side of filmmaking and telling good, meaningful stories that resonate with people, and I feel like when you go into it with that mindset, you easily are able to connect with other people of the same mindset, like, you just find each other.
right.
It's just, draws. You can tell the people that are just doing it for the paycheck, it's another day at the job, and those people who are, really in it, like you said, to make art, to tell good stories.
And sometimes you land both.
Yeah,
Sometimes you get kind of like really fortunate to, and the reason why it's fortunate is because like there's that whole really big struggle of like cutting corners
yeah.
in film, which is like, hey, that's not
It's the
healthy.
yeah,
Like that's we can't do that forever. No.
yeah,
And until something is like you cut corners until you really shouldn't ever and don't have to.
right. What you see happen so often, it's just unfortunate, but, because I feel like a film is just the whole on-set production life is you're putting out fires the whole time, like, it's putting
Yeah.
out one fire after another.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're small fires, but
Yeah.
it's
I f
it's learning to handle that in a way where you don't degrade someone or, ruin like, make it so that someone wants to walk the next day and not come back, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
taking ownership and be like, "Okay, like, no, we're the top, we're the chain of command, like, we're at the top, let's own this, figure out how to address it without, um,
Right.
pointing blame at one individual." Even if it is, and sometimes there is a call for that, a private conversation, but, it's hard to n navigate that.
Yeah, it's really tricky and like there's no way around it unless you're able to I guess kind of just have like a certain level of trust
Mhm.
within friends. And
Yeah,
and it's like it's very like sappy and endearing, but it's true. Like I know that like if I jump on the set with this one guy
yeah,
who isn't even like friend status, but even more like colleague status, I know that they're not going to screw me over.
right.
It's kind of like what's the business of dealing with your instrument of your body on set
Yeah.
as you're like pulling focus or being a gaffer or like whatever very physically demanding type stuff can
Mhm.
you entrust to someone
Mm.
and you believe is like I've got your back, I'm looking out for you,
Yeah.
as opposed to like another union type gig that you are just lumped into a batch of different camera
Right.
departments that don't talk to each other and probably shouldn't for good reason.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, yeah, and that probably is going to happen on more and more features that those shorts will eventually progress towards.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, I'd like to do that with a buddy.
Sure. Yeah, 100%, and that's
Yeah,
where you get most shorts are passion projects, right?
yeah,
And so it's the idea of, like, people think of a student film, bunch of buddies making a movie, right? And it's just a more, I'd say, a step above that, or a more professional atmosphere a lot of times. But you still do. You're surrounded by people you've worked with, are hardworking, and maybe they're doing it for free, but they're stepping into a position to get the experience and take over.
hmm
Or they're doing it for a low rate, but they do it because they love everyone on set and they want to be a part of it,
right,
and creating that atmosphere where people are not even batting an eye at a low day rate, or um, what it's gonna cost them if they do it for X amount
Mm.
is a very rare thing, but it's a special thing because it shows, like you said, trust, and it shows that they have faith in the director, the writer, they have
Y-
faith that this is gonna be,
Yeah,
a great project.
that equity is built through like cross pollinated connections of
Yeah,
like, well, Austin trusts you, so he's probably going to trust like the director
right,
because because like they it's like, oh, well, I trust that guy's chain of command,
right.
and that's everything in department dynamics from first to seconds to thirds, and I think that's the really fun thing that we'd want to make more movies that are solely art based and directors who know what they want to say
Yeah,
without and also find it on the day of and let it be the art form that it is and not pigeonhole yourself into yeah too many unprepared settings,
mhm,
but having like your vision cast and set with clear focus of what you want to do is just going to help the whole department out,
mhm.
from every department. So
Yeah, I also love in those scenarios, those more intimate or, lower tier productions is you have a solid mix of professionals to people just stepping up to a role, And so the professionalism on set is met by those people who are taking a step down in pay, but helping out, and then it's setting the bar for those people stepping in because they wanna show themselves, they wanna prove themselves,
yeah,
and make it, but you already have that level of professionalism that they can learn from, and all while getting the feel of set and what goes into, making it. I mean, I think of on the set of Bleeding Heart, it was a solid mix of paid professionals to who were doing me a favor on their rates, um, to people that were stepping into the job for the first time, and they killed it. I mean, they went above and beyond just because they wanted to match that level of professionalism, but it also felt safe. If they made a mistake, it wasn't like, "Okay, you're cut, you're fired, like,
you're not
what'd
gonna
you
get
do?" It was
yelled
like
at
it
or
was like,
anything.
"Okay,
Yeah,
like, let's learn from this and,
yeah,
put it away, and so you know for next time," right?
right.
And it was addressed in a way where, they're not leaving and wanting to quit the industry the next day, but so that they're like, okay, yeah, no, they realize they messed up and they made a mistake,
Yeah,
but it's like, okay, learn and move on. We're still gonna make our day. We're still,
yeah,
and even if we didn't make our day a couple times, but it's like it's not the end of the world.
yeah. It's kind of like good intentions only go so far
Hmm.
without being backed up.
Right.
Um, and if you're and simultaneously at the same time, my intention to make our day, I know it's there for that guy.
Sure.
And like if I can trust the good intentions to really be what they are, and yeah, we're trying to make our day,
Yes.
and just like like they're working for the crew so we can get people home
Right.
and also say what we want to say with proper pre-production already set. Like you're being a really responsible, good human being when you're
Yeah.
doing that, and that's kind of awesome. Like to be as set and prepared for, what you wanna say.
Right.
What's a movie that was just like, "Oh my gosh," it just, like, changed your life? Like
One of my favorites is the Spectacular Now. It did a lot of had a lot of influence on my short. Just the emotion there of displaying the idea of being afraid to grow up, not wanting to grow up,
mm,
but through a senior in high school, right, and what that looks like playing out in his life,
right.
um, and everything that goes on beneath it, right, like the dynamic of trying to pretend like he doesn't care about his father who never came back, while still trying to like, oh, just live in the moment, but it's really just pushing off having to deal with those heavier decisions,
Yeah.
and so visually showing that a lot of people are visual learners, and so with the whole movie industry. Obviously, I think there's a lot of fluff. There's a lot of films that just get pumped out for money's sakes, but you have the art and you have the stories that get told that really resonate with people. And there's a lot of films that for me, I feel like gave me the words for my emotions that I couldn't find myself.
Mm,
And The Spectacular Now was one of those. Perks of Being a Wallflower was one of those. They're like kind of rom coms, but they have a heavy hitting deeper meaning that comes out in the end. Like, okay, why is this person acting the way he is? There's always a there's usually always something below the surface.
Mm.
And for me, storytelling is an outlet. Um, Cinema is, like we said, art and telling art, and creating is something in everyone, right? The
What did it mean to like express yourself through the role of Pierce in
Yeah.
Bleeding Heart? Like that's it's really a chance to just acting could be seen as therapeutic, it could be seen as just a job,
Mhm.
but like it's a passion project for you,
Yeah.
and you had a role you could express yourself.
Yeah.
What did that mean to you? Like,
It was horrifying. It was very scary. At first, right? Because it's exposing a part of yourself, that is, tough and that you wanna keep close to your chest, or I mean, with anything that you write, right? Like, that's the barrier to entry, is actually having to show people your work,
yeah.
right? And so there's that level of, okay, are people gonna like what I have? Are people gonna like my script, my ideas? Are they going to like me, right? Because of it, it's like showing that part. And so it was scary in a lot of ways, but it was also very fulfilling. As we said, I was surrounded by one of my best friends, the Noah Wilcox
Right.
on the DP, and we've, grown up dreaming about making movies, and just having him there, um, throughout the whole thing. I remember a couple moments, just days drug on, and I just would go up and wrap my arms around him, just like, "I'm so glad you're here. Like, like, you're doing
Buddy.
amazing." But yeah, it was a leap,
Mm,
for sure, and I was also it was crazy because it's a film about relationships, from all aspects. Relationships with a significant other, relationship with a best friend, and a relationship with yourself,
mm,
right? And your past self. And around the time of filming, kind of a month before, we were doing a pre-production, but I was also just having an internal, like, identity struggle of just, you know, kind of those crises you have in your 20s, like, what am I doing? Like, who am I? Am I just wasting my time?
mm.
Um,
It's not just in your 20s though.
right?
I can tell you
It's
that
a
much.
life thing,
Yeah, yeah.
is what I've heard, and of trying to move past the barrier of, oh, I know a lot, and just continue to be like, I don't know so much, and I'm
Right.
still learning, and I want to grow, and I want to have every opportunity I can to grow. But yeah, I was just going through a really rough time mentally through that, and it was like my film played perfectly into that. And so I remember there was a moment on set where we were filming an emotional scene, and you and I just went to a room because you were co-directing, and it was like the weight of everything just hit me, and you were like, "Dude, I just want you to know, like, I'm here. Like, we're here. We're in
Mm,
this moment. We're making this film, like, but I'm also here for you." And
mm.
it was just like I came
You're
out
surrounded
after,
by like
yeah,
you were
like, you're
surrounded
surrounded
by
by,
the right vulnerability to
yes,
like share with friends. Like
yeah.
when you have a good setting.
Yeah,
It's
it was a, a roller coaster of emotions, but it was also just surreal playing out the script that I wrote, because it's l there's some true, elements and stuff, it got twisted for, and weaved into a narrative for a film, but, there's parts of myself in that script that are very near and dear, and, are still things that play into reasons I do certain things, right? And, so it was therapeutic. It was also a lot, and like I said, it started out being scary of like, okay, are people gonna like this?
right.
And but it turned into just such an um, emotionally fulfilling experience, surrounded by the right people, and very safe. And so, originally I had an actor tied to it that was gonna play the lead, and we had the strikes, and then a bunch of other things get pushed off, and it was just things started getting uncertain, and so I was like, all right, I'm gonna play, like, I
You
know this
made
role.
you made the leap.
Yeah.
Like you yeah, like it takes a lot to um do something that you didn't expect you'd have to do, and wear multiple hats, and also you probably shouldn't wear a lot of
Yeah.
hats too. But like when you're staying in the guest house, you gotta kind of
Yep.
like, "Cool,
Yep.
this isn't as comfortable as I'd like to be, but let's go ahead and do this," and you also have to have the right live season and bandwidth
Yeah.
to, like, wear multiple hats. Maybe I don't wanna do that,
Right.
and it's like, "Hey, great, you're probably on the fundraising bandwagon to not have to stay in the guest house," but, like, really, really incredible things can grow from that discomfort
Yeah.
and stress that you go under, ideally with like good people,
Sure.
and you don't have to trauma bond too much.
Right.
You just know that you know what you're getting into,
Right.
and you know where you're gonna stay for
Yeah.
the next week, however long a short usually takes in order to film.
Sure.
Like,
Couple days to
yeah,
a week.
and you're willing to, like, go through that, under the right conditions and circumstances, and with that comes, like, a lot of really incredible stuff that can arise. Damien Chazelle's, Whiplash in the
Mhm.
short, uh, yeah
Gosh, that's another one of my favorites, man.
yeah, so good. Like, so much was communicated, like, just in the short
Mhm.
alone, of everything he was trying to say.
Yeah.
And, um, and I think he actually did it even better in the feature,
Mhm.
but, like, it was just so good as it was, but, yeah, what are the things that you wanna say and share that require the funding that are necessary to take that big, long leap of, yeah, $3 to $5 million, how much it's gonna cost for my next feature,
Right.
and it's like, "Okay, yeah, uh,
Mhm.
oh, what do I do there?
Yeah.
How do a and it's gonna take a lot more work, in the business side of stuff, but I kind of only wanna tell that story in a feature setting and not much else. There's
Right.
a couple of shorts that are coming down the line, and we're gonna have more on the channel soon, but, like, yeah, what do you wanna say, and how do you wanna say it, and how
Mhm.
much is that gonna cost you?
Right.
Both in energy, money, all the above, and
Time. Yeah,
time.
crew, you name it.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like, well, okay, I'd like to do that with good people, and sounds good. Let's go
Yeah.
ahead and do it. And so that's a really nice luxury that you can't always get afforded is people, good
Yeah.
people. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
true. A good person, a good worker who's got a good, who brings good morale on set is, you know,
First AD
yeah,
is
a dime a dozen.
super helpful
S
to have a trickle down
Yeah.
effect in most sets. So yeah. So um we're starting the first of many BTS episodes of Bleeding Heart, highlighting
Mhm.
crew and sharing creative processes for the film. Um, if there's someone that you could give a massive shout out for Bleeding Heart, that was on Below the Line crew,
Mhm.
who would that be?
First gosh, I mean, I hate just picking one person because it's like everyone
There
killed
were
it,
there
but
55 people were on
yeah,
our biggest day, and that's a
that's
big
a
crew
lot.
for a short. Yeah.
I mean, the first person that comes to mind just because it was his first time ever in the industry was Trenton.
Oh my gosh, I was thinking
Man,
of him.
Trenton,
That's who I was thinking of. Yeah.
Trenton Ferris, just he came in as our props guy and
Yeah.
or set design,
Yeah.
and just killed it. I mean, everything we needed, he had, like, down to the story, like, making himself the night before, and
So specific on
yeah,
details and like um trying to get what you want and how you want it,
yeah.
and just a level of earnestness that's just so
I
helpful.
mean, down
Like,
to renting a library book and printing out his own cover, burning the edges, like, making it fit like it
yeah,
looks like an old I was like, "Dude."
that's like so good.
Yeah, it
And
was
it was in kind of a pinch situation too, because yeah, yeah, when you wanna avoid as many pinch situations as possible,
yeah.
but when it comes down to it, you've got someone who's just deeply interested
Mhm.
in making it work and making
Yeah.
it happen, and yeah, I mean, hit the ball out of the park, and the work you'd want to be as highlighted as possible in the film.
Yeah.
You don't wanna cut anything out that so many,
Right.
like, good things were brought to the table with.
I mean, really, the whole art department in general killed it. It was Natalie Mathis, Gabe Wilson,
Yeah.
and Trenton, and, I mean, dude, Gabe, between setting up the chicken wire, pulling the cans, getting
Yeah.
the door that's shown in the middle of the field,
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that door was beat up and bruised, and he got it, and they, like,
Fresh coat of paint.
scrubbed it down,
Yeah.
yeah, spray painted it white
Let's
and
go.
let it dry, and it was outside, so it was on a cold day,
Yeah.
and they're trying to let it
And
dry.
they were like, "Okay, like,
Yeah.
we shooting 20?"
Yeah, and I
Like
mean, it crushed it, you can't tell in the film, even down to putting the same notch in the door that's on the
Right,
door in the room,
right.
was
Yeah,
just amazing, and I don't even think it ends up playing. You may see the notch in the final film on the actual door, but it was just the attention to detail was there,
yeah,
was spot on, and they showed up and they loved being on set and just
right,
never were complaining about anything, never had a negative word to say, and it was, and they were stepping into roles they hadn't had much experience in and doing it for
right,
a next to nothing day rate.
right, right.
So,
Yeah,
just doing favors, and yeah, the whole art department comes to mind. I mean, just awesome. Every set was
yeah. And
great.
it's amazing to think of, like, the level of commitment and the low level stakes of, regret after it.
Mhm.
Like, you're like, like, there were a couple of days where I was like, "Oh gosh, we're not making it our days there. This
Yeah.
is bad." And how do we push on and still get exactly what we need? Um, and yeah, you can feel that wear on the crew. That doesn't feel good.
Mhm.
Like, you having to push further. And man, Mockingbird was similar to that. I remember a couple of days where I think we made all of our days on
I think we
Mockingbird.
did too.
Yeah, and,
Who was your first AD on that? That's crazy.
yeah,
No, I was
yeah,
kidding.
yeah, crazy. Yeah, 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 you were. Yeah, about that. Yeah,
Yeah, I was
thank you.
kidding.
Yeah, like, yeah, I think we made all of our days on that. And Josh, the first AC on that,
That's
just
right, I
came up
forgot
to
who that
me.
was.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Josh.
Yeah, I talked to him on the phone the other day, and, he came up to me, like, kinda midway through production. He's like, "You know you can push us, right?" Like, and I was like, "Yeah, but, like,
Right,
we I don't wanna like, go too far." And, it was just such a amazing, like, thing for a crew member to come up and say,
right.
like,
Like,
we can go. We
we're
we
not
can keep."
babies, like, we
Yeah, we're
like,
not
I've got some
babies.
skin on me, like,
I'm
just
not a baby. Yeah, like, yeah, he was like, you can, we can keep going. It's gonna be all right.
yeah,
And uh, clearly, I was wearing my heart on my sleeve while directing, being like,
right,
it's costing how much money, and how are we gonna
right,
push this out,
right.
and like
Well, and
terrifying.
also you're sharing a story that is near and dear to your heart too,
Sure,
and so
yeah,
there's
yeah,
that level of vulnerability,
right,
um,
right,
for you because that was your kind of first
yeah.
out of the gates as a director, right?
Yeah, and man, it's just so crazy cool to have Taylor's support in that. Like,
Taylor, man.
oh my gosh, Taylor. Let's talk about Taylor.
Taylor's amazing.
Yeah. Oh my
Like, I wanna
gosh.
cast her in everything I do.
Yeah.
She kills it. She helped me too in a lot of our scenes, like,
Right.
little things because I 'cause I'd run from doing, like, the producer director hat and just be getting into, "Sorry, let's get into the scene.
Right.
Let's just get into it."
Right.
And, little exercises or whatever, and she's so fun to play off because she's so good at what she does, and
Right.
she knows how to move, like, show subtle things through her body language,
Right.
through, eye movements, and
I learned so much from Taylor,
shame.
having her on both films. Like, yeah, just kind of like the expediency that she brought to the table of, um, being okay with me cutting her off
Yeah,
and just being like, "No, no, just tell me to move, like, it's gonna be fine,
right.
and we'll go ahead and do that."
Yeah,
And I was, like, debating that for a long time. I was like, "Oh, but is that do I wanna let the take, like, happen
right.
and see what happens there?" And, Taylor was right. It was like, "Yeah, hey, like, no, just tell me to move,
Yep,
and I'm professional enough to be cut off
right.
and tell me to be adjusted, and then cool, then I'm gonna give you more,
Yeah,
how you want it in the right angle of 3/4 of the face or instead of profile or whatever. Just like a level of professionalism that, um, I didn't expect, because I've worked with some actors before where it's just like, okay, like, I was trying to give you
right,
something,
right.
and I was like, "Oh, that's great," and I wanna be sensitive to that, and I wanna, give some time for that, and communicate.
Sure.
When you direct, you wanna be like, "Yeah, what do you think about that? Yeah, this and that," kinda meander.
But also balancing as the
Right,
director, you're steering the ship.
Right.
And so, like, if
Right.
you're not getting what you want,
Yeah.
and that's where you could really tell her professionalism was she's just like, "Look, don't
Dialed
make
in.
me do a whole take if you're just gonna tell me to do it
Exactly.
again differently."
Exact
Like,
and just move your head
yeah,
just like
just
that, and
yeah.
so
And so it was awesome.
but you don't get that you can get that privilege on any set where you say, "Cut, I want you this way,
Mhm,
go ahead and
mhm.
reshape, restructure, go, give me it again,
Yeah, yeah,
one more time." But,
right,
like, a Fincher level, that I just don't enjoy doing,
sure.
um, but when you have the right cast and the right professionalism of actors, you definitely can do that,
Yeah,
and it's actually pretty chill
yeah.
when you can make that happen.
It was the pre-production conversations with her too, where you could tell she just wanted to get into the character and hearing her thoughts about it and going through the script with her. She's just like she really wants to embody the nature of the character she's playing. And
Mhm.
um I'm sure it was the same experience on Mockingbird, just having those pre-pro calls and
Yeah.
like
Yeah, I got to drive up and we got to link up beforehand and talk through the script at a coffee shop and so many good questions on her end and also like so little to go off of
right.
for who's this character and how do I get inside their head and understand them better? What's in your head? And she would
Yeah.
ask like me those questions and stuff. I was like, well, I think they're kind of like this, but uh, yeah, giving the intention and communication, behind kind of like what actually shapes you into, um, like expressing something in a fluid way that just flows back and forth,
Yeah.
between dialogue and then also your movement and just how you yeah, it's so interesting. Yeah.
And also time is a real thing too. And so if you're gonna make me do a whole take, make sure I'm facing where you want me to
There it
face.
is.
Yeah.
There it is, and let's just call it what it is instead
Yeah.
of, kind of drawing it out there, sensitivity-wise, like, yeah, a few actors that I've worked with are like, yeah, like, I'm really struggling in order to get kind of, like, into my vision of the character,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh, that's because you didn't prepare."
Yep.
Like, you need to know what you wanna say,
Yep.
and do that and let me cut you off too.
Mhm.
And if you don't, then yeah, the rest of the crew's not going to make their day, and
Mhm.
it's not going to be a good giving thing for the people around you. And we want to change that too in our small little shorts that we get to make.
Sure.
And then yeah, like another great film that a lot of crew that we know got to work on it, Wildcat
Yeah.
here in Kentucky. um, yeah, like, heard it was just the greatest experience in making a movie.
Hmm.
And it was just like a great time. And so it's really cool when you hear a feature come through
Yeah.
Kentucky
That
and
was
it
Ethan Hawke's directed.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
And his daughter Maya was one of the
right,
leads, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
she was
cool.
the actor. Yeah, and so it's really cool when you see that things can work really well on a feature capacity and yeah, everyone's working for each other.
Mhm.
And it doesn't have to just be in shorts when you do that. You can do that on the feature level
Right.
too. So,
Shorts is a great place for people to learn, get in, kind of
right.
see how it runs. And, I was talking with someone the other day about just the experience level because there is the balance of structure
Mm,
with efficiency and, also trying to balance people's emotions, right? And not like not crushing someone's soul, but you can swing too far one way because I'm sure you've been on a set too where there's a lack of structure and like everyone's just kind of everyone's wearing a hat and you're like, okay, but what's my role? What am I doing right now? Like these people are all saying they're on camera. One dude's lighting, but I thought I was gaffing. Like, what's going on here? And so it's finding the balance of structure with efficiency as well as creating that morale to where it's a safe space um, is a delicate balance. And I think it's worth most people don't want to find it, right? They just want to either have structure
mm,
and all right, this is my department. We don't talk to the departments. Like we're
mm.
just
Yeah,
don't touch my stuff.
yeah.
I remember there's one AC I worked with. First AC was like, "Don't touch my stuff." Like being dead serious to like
Yeah, I've
other
worked with
people.
several that are
Yeah,
yeah.
just like and then they get like super mad and just bring morale down.
I've
Or
seen both sides of that healthy on both sides.
yeah,
Like, I've seen some where it's like, "Gosh, please don't touch my stuff." Like,
right, right,
very,
right.
like, sincerely, like having their own good reasons for it, and then other good reasons for saying like, yeah, like grab that O'Connor and set that up. I
Yeah.
don't care if it's in B unit or A unit; it doesn't matter. We need it,
Right, right, right.
and let's go. And it's very fluid, and
Mhm.
shorthand exists.
Yeah.
And yeah, like yeah, it's nice to have fluidness and flow.
Mhm.
Um, it-
Speaking of, you another person I just thought of was Aaron Stone, or,
yeah,
our
yeah,
originally brought him on as a second AD, but then you took over as co-director and
yeah.
kind of mainly directing because I was in almost every scene. And he stepped up to first
Aaron did
AD
so good.
and was awesome. I mean,
Yeah,
fighting fires before they even came up, and always on top of it at the end of the day, at the beginning of the day, and um, just yeah. Speaking of flow, just kept our days going,
right,
and
right, right,
like came up to us when something needed to be addressed. Be like, hey, this is what's going on. Like, what do you want? But he wasn't necessarily like, what do you want to do? He almost always was like, this is how I think we should fix this,
right.
which is huge. Rather than just, it's one thing to bring attention to a problem, but already having like,
Yeah,
hey, I think it's already kind of being solved. This is what I think we should do. But what do you think?
right. Aaron's a great first AD. He's got to start jumping on yeah, more features soon, I'd imagine. Yeah, he's so dialed in and locked in of kind of like, oh, this is no,
Yep.
like
Yep.
understand the flow and execution, execution,
Yeah.
execution, execution. Just in trying to see what sticks when you throw it up against the wall,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing like, that's not working too well. Let me try this,
Yep.
and just experimentation until it's even verbalized. And it's like, well, the work's already done. I've
Yeah.
already done that work. It's not taking a lot more. What are we doing? Questions.
Right.
It's more of just like, oh, I'm there and I'm just kind of like seeing what works.
Yeah.
And that's always like deeply impressive to have that support and all departments honestly. It's just amazing. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was watching the behind the scenes of Wicked,
Mm-hmm.
and oh my gosh, that movie, like I'd love to talk about that for a good like 10 days.
Really?
So good.
I'd have
And
to see it.
oh man, I think you're gonna love it. Like I'm not a musical guy,
Yeah.
but like just
Really.
blew the roof off of the theater. So good. And the amount of precision and almost like the commerce of set and department dynamics is like so impressive
Huh.
in the locked in nature of solving problems and fixing and moving forward.
Right.
And yeah, just incredible. And so a real inspiration for any kind of filmmaking, shorts, narrative, even commercials. Like you just see the locked in level and nature, and it's just yeah, it's just art.
Yeah.
It's just incredibly it's like the art of decision making
Mm-hmm.
and like pressing forward constantly with a focus that is just locked and loaded and also like very aware of people
Yeah.
and the attitude and morale of what's going on and how are you able to be a good hang.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And most people in that level have the understanding of when, okay, it's time to kick it into gear and we got to work. And there's that saying on set. It's like hurry up and wait, right? It's like,
Always.
yeah, it's always in a
I'm
rush until you're
terrible at
waiting,
that.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like so yeah, and it's true. I feel like there's so much that is my personality is always like driving,
Right.
and it's like, hey, like we don't always need that. Probably more my like strategy and execution is always driving,
Hmm.
and it can't always happen that way. And yeah, you gotta wait and then yeah, move forward and all that good stuff. So,
Yeah.
but man, what do you want to say with your films in the future? Like what's something that's important to you that you wanna go through everything we just talked about with? Like,
Yeah.
what's the thing you wanna share to the world, you know?
Um, Gosh, I mean, I don't know if that's one thing, but you know, I like to say my belief, we create because we were created, right? And I feel like that's why we all naturally have that capacity of creating is mimicking our creator. And for me, with telling stories, I want to, tell a narrative that is maybe speaking to something that is not spoken of often, or um, speaks to the fact that we are complicated beings who have internal struggles, who make mistakes, who have regrets, and are trying to process that,
Mm,
right?
mm,
And oftentimes, with Bleeding Heart, it's one of the tagline I was going with for a while was undealt with trauma bleeds into the most intimate parts of your lives, right?
mm,
And really, you could shorten that to it bleeds into your every area of life, right? Um, the way your subconscious retains memory and works without you even knowing, right? And I've often heard it described as it's like when you drop a rock into a pond, right? And there's ripple effects throughout life, right? And it could be a ripple doesn't come up for 5 years, but then there's a ripple, right? And you have such an ability to do that to a whole other extent through the act of movie making. And so I definitely want that to be um, in all of my narratives, just alluding to a deeper meaning. And sometimes you can tell that beautifully, and other times you miss the mark. It's a hard, it's not going to reach everything. There's movies that I believe are masterpieces that flopped at the box office because people weren't ready for them, or just it didn't hit, right? Or it hit a smaller group. But um, yeah, just everyone has a story, and as people, we can relate to the struggle of life in
mm,
different ways. And so, if you tell a captivating story, people can often see themselves as the main character,
mm.
and resonate with that and find some form of healing or resolve they didn't know they needed or hadn't found before that moment.
Mm,
So there's that whole avenue of filmmaking of where it can be escapism, but it can also be um, trying to point a spotlight on something that's not talked about, or just
mm,
share a truth,
mm.
um,
Yeah.
an honest part of yourself. And I think it's a fine balance, because you watch so many deep emotional movies. Eventually, you're like, yo, I need to watch the episodes of The Office. Like, I just need, I need to
Let's
feel happy.
decompress here
Like,
a
yeah,
little bit.
yeah.
Like, I can't do
There's
this
a reason that you
forever.
have comedies and you have dramas. Like, you need a balance,
Yeah.
and sometimes you get a perfect mix of both in a film. You get a rom-com that hits home, or you get a coming of age story that
Mm,
um, has a deeper theme throughout it, but it's got comedy bits through it. And so there's no right way right way to do it, but like I think it's important, like you said, like am I staying true is to what I want to tell or what I want to say? Like
mhm,
what do I want to say here,
mm.
right? And am I filling it in with fluff, or am I getting my point across as
A
concisely as it can be?
and is fluff a part of that poetry?
Right.
You know? Like, yeah, totally.
Is
Just like
fluff the point?
yeah, it makes me think of Tenet,
Right.
and it's just like, "Hey, that movie's just a vibe, man."
It's
Like
literally a vibe, and
yeah.
yeah, I was literally talking with someone about that the other day. I don't I saw Tenet once, and my overall impressions was I enjoyed it, but I like it was a vibe. Like I
Yeah.
I thought it was flawed, and I but again, it literally just felt like he put it out as a vibe because the music overplays the audio at times, and you're just kind of like there.
Yeah, I think he knew what he was doing there. Yeah. Yeah, if anything, intention to get there quick, and to not have this to me, I'm just not a dictator director.
Mhm.
I don't think I ever wanna be that. But I do wanna know what I wanna say and how I wanna
Right.
say it. And, um, and that's probably just the most important part, and it can be coded in fluff and all this other stuff, but, like, is it wasting crew time and audience time?
Mhm.
And it's like, more often than not, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, well, what do I cut back in order to get there and say what I have to say? Even if it's a vibe or if it's just kind of like a deeper, more impactful life lesson of some kind.
Yeah.
Um, doesn't really matter. Get there quick, and yeah, do that pre-production ahead of time.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think that's
So
our biggest resource for shorts is just like,
Pre-production. Yeah.
yeah, what you want to say.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what do you wanna say with your coming projects? What does Stephen Philippi wanna say with his films?
Yeah. Well, we've got two shorts coming out this year, which is going to be fun. I think I'm really interested in stuff that uh, is unspoken and is shown, feelings that are not like expressed often, and
Mhm.
you see it unfold on screen, and you can see yourself within those feelings that are portrayed. I'm just really interested in the unspoken marvel of uh, senses and relationships with people, and how you can see yourself in context to those.
Mhm.
How do you kind of reckon with someone's struggle? Um, Mockingbird was about like grief and
Mhm.
uh, estrangement, and not knowing the difference between the two, and it all, and you have to sit with it until something comes back.
Mhm.
And um, I'm really interested in what our descriptors are of God, of what we think and feel that presence is,
Mhm.
and who's right, who's wrong.
Right.
Like, and I'm really interested in the confidence that one person has and is working really well with them, and the lack of confidence someone has and it's not going very well for them,
Right.
or the lack of confidence that someone has and it's going great for
Yeah.
them. And I'm like, I'm really interested in that. So there is a feature I'd like to put out there of people describing that presence
Mhm.
and tone, of what their perception is of a life force that's bigger than them,
Mm.
and whether or not it's a good thing or a bad thing for them.
Mm.
Um, so I don't know. That's probably what I'd want to say ultimately with um, the feature after Mockingbird. So yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, good stuff. Well,
Well,
that's about that.
yeah, we got, a trailer for Bleeding Heart that's
Yeah, I think that will have just released,
yeah.
and yeah, I think that'll be coming out in February, and probably maybe a re-release of Mockingbird on this channel, and then a couple of other shorts coming out. You've got a short coming out. I've got
Yeah.
a couple coming. So yeah, we're just excited to
Just
keep doing
get
more.
the ball rolling and start it.
Yeah.
Yeah.